if they don't look all that impressive now. You know, even if it wasn't a depression or storm now, we'd be talking about an invest that has a chance to develop and then move our direction. Don't take your eye off.
And storms have hit us this evening, and we think that with this line of storms that comes through, there'll be numerous locations that have to be on the lookout. Could include Vermont, upstate New York, maybe back down through Pennsylvania as well. So just giving you the heads up on what's coming your way. This area that's highlighted in red, the most likely area for storms for the remainder of the evening. Burlington, Vermont, the Capital District in Albany, Binghamton to Scranton, down toward Williamsport, and right along 81. We can have some issues here. There's a look at the visible satellite, the front itself that's pushing on through. Can you see where it is? It's actually, see that thin little white line right there? That's the actual front itself. There's not a giant temperature divide on each side. There's definitely a wind shift. But if you look at far off to the east, you can certainly see mid-80s to low 90s compared to 70s well behind that. Buffalo right now at 70. Cleveland, you're sitting at 76, whereas D.C., you're in the 90s. There's a look at the storms that are firing up along and ahead of that front right now. Albany, we're at 79 with cloudy skies. New York, you could get some showers in there later on tonight, but for now, we'll call it partly cloudy, and temperatures are very summer-like here. Syracuse, most of the heavy stuff's gone for you now. Over toward Rome and Utica, here come your storms. Then eventually we think these get over toward Saratoga Springs and right along I-87 for you tonight. Pittsburgh, boy, we've dodged them. They've been south of us, they've been north of us, but some storms, a thin little line heading through Punxsutawney, eventually Indiana as well, and some storms coming from Wheeling over toward Washington, maybe eventually over toward, say, Mount Pleasant. Coming down through Athens, Ohio, so you got hit on campus of OU here, maybe down towards Salisbury, and a few light showers for you in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Otherwise, things just maybe more cloudy for you than anything else. There's a look at the future radar and through the evening tonight. Maybe a bigger blow up on the northern side of that where you're a little bit closer to the thin line could come through overnight tonight right along the I-95 corridor, but most of us will be sleeping at that point, so I don't think it's a huge deal. And then tomorrow morning, everything clears out for you and a calmer day for you across much of the Northeast. Also tracking some storms for you across the Southwest as well. Did you see this? Early morning flash flooding, and it caught drivers here off guard just outside of Phoenix. These dry arroyos, they can fill up so quickly and just cause rushing water here. Flooding a very dangerous and a major concern for us here, unfortunately. So let's bring in Dr. Knabb. There's actually a bit of a tropical influence here, Dr. Knabb. You know, a lot of people saying, well, the monsoon, it arrived, but maybe too late. But there's hints of monsoon, but there's also hints of tropics playing a role here.
Yeah, this is really more of tropical systems bringing moisture up from the East Pacific and a big trough over the west, you know, tapping into that and focusing it and giving it some lift and causing some really, really heavy rainfall and a significant flood concern. Mike showed you it's already been happening, but there's more ongoing right now. Tonight into tomorrow morning, likely flash flooding, some risk. And here is a 3-day loop. Here are our two tropics that over the last few days have come northward and weakened, but all that moisture has been coming north. Here goes one, and here is Mario dissipating off the Baja in U.S. That's bringing that moisture in and causing the uplift. But there's more thunderstorm activity over Arizona than there is over the East Pacific remnants of Mario. So here is that axis of thunderstorm generation, a little bit of heating of the day, adding to it. This is where the Granite Reef Dam is, and the Salt River down from that, they've had to release some water out of that dam, and so we've got a flash flood warning here in the Salt River, the Tempe area just north of Mesa. So getting into some of the populated areas that could cause some flooding of normally dry locations. That warning till 5:30, flash flooding going on as well. So Mike, it's going to be not just a daytime problem, but these thunderstorms could last overnight tonight and then fire off tomorrow, especially in the Tucson area. So it's not really the monsoon, but it's a late version of it, aided by East Pacific tropical systems.
The result either way is going to be very similar. Watch for the flash flooding. Could be a lot of that. Dr. Knabb, thanks for it. And we take you to the Midwest now. Beautiful day today in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Looks gorgeous right now. Mostly sunny skies. A few fair weather cumulus clouds out there. Giving the early heads up, though, that tomorrow could bring some pretty nasty storms for us here in the Midwest. So be prepared for that. A place like Eau Claire, you could be a target. Minneapolis, you could be a target as well. There are thunderstorms. Nice day tomorrow, about 80 degrees. Summer's hanging on for you here. Those storms coming in the evening may last overnight. We'll drop down to 57, so a comfortable overnight. And then Wednesday, once the front comes on through, look at that, just 68 degrees, so a nice ushering in of fall, if you will. This is the area of concern. It'll include around Des Moines, Minneapolis, probably central Wisconsin, and back across, say, western Nebraska as well. There's a look at the area we're concerned about for tornadoes, a torcon of 3 in southwest Minnesota, much of Iowa, and then west central Wisconsin here. What that means is a 30% chance of tornadoes. 0 to 10 scale. 0 means 0 chance of tornadoes. A 10 means 100% chance of tornadoes. So we're right around the 3. So don't rule it out tomorrow, and make sure you keep it a close eye on the weather. There's that cold front, provides some lift, but out ahead of it, a lot of moisture streams northbound here. Pretty strong low-level jet as well. So if we don't see a ton of tornadoes out of this, don't be surprised to see some really strong straight line winds that come along with it. But sometimes just a little bit of low level wind shear is just enough to get some tornadoes to spin up here. Winds turn with height here, so there could be some supporting supercell thunderstorms. Those are the ones that produce and most likely to produce the tornadoes. Greatest supercell potential around Waterloo here, extreme southeastern Minnesota, then between, say, Sioux City and Omaha. So those are the areas we probably most likely watch for tornadoes. There's a look at the line comes through Tuesday, 8 o'clock. It's cleared us already in the Twin Cities, but heads up Omaha back toward Lincoln, and then probably around sunset or after sunset, it hits you in Des Moines. So there could be a nocturnal threat for you tomorrow. Make sure you keep your eye on that. And we know today's a very important meteorological day, right? It's fall, y'all. That's right. Autumn officially coming in at 3:50 this morning. And in Holton, Maine, you can see some of the leaves. Well, they're starting to change color just a little bit. And yep, it's definitely wet too. But we want to know how you feel about the changing seasons. Are you a bring me some pumpkin spice kind of person, or do you need a little bit more beach time? Why don't you vote on our Twitter poll right now? A lot of you are very opinionated about this one as well. So vote on our Weather Underground Twitter poll, and we're going to have some final results and your comments coming up a little bit later on the show. But many of you are probably asking, okay, fall? Are you kidding me? Where is fall? Nowhere to be seen. Many of you in the southeast are feeling the heat. How about a place like Atlanta? Year to date, take a look at this pie chart of your high temperatures. 30% of your days this year alone have been 90 degrees or hotter. 26% of your days have been in the 80s, and then significantly less when you get cooler. So it's been a hot year for you. I know this only goes from January through September, and we've got October, November, December to go for. But still, it really shows you how hot it's been. Dome of high pressure, it's been solid for weeks now. It's going to stay there through late week and beyond. Look at the potential record highs midweek through late week. Dozens of them could be set with temperatures in the 90s and probably triple digits as well. Atlanta, check this out. The next 10 days of your 12-day forecast, you have a high temperature, at least stunning. Let's start with Thursday here. The next 5 of 7 days, starting on Thursday, you could have record-setting temperatures, 90s all the way through early October. The numbers really are stunning, and the southeast has really bore the brunt of it. Many of you in the top 5 so far for warmest Septembers. We're just getting started on the show tonight. Well, she may be small, but 16-year-old activist Greta Thunberg took her big message on the climate change to the UN today. All the adults in the room, everything they need to hear. Her powerful words are...
The Lab is brought to you by State Farm. There for when things go wrong, but also here to help life go right.
now overrun. To get through this before they get home, so just keep that in mind. It could be a few minutes late. Storms have come through Butler, now about to hit us in Punxsutawney, then down toward Indiana. Pittsburgh, boy, we have dodged a bullet here with storms north and storms south here. A few showers over Washington right now. They've come through Athens, Ohio, on their way to Parkersburg, West Virginia, but not nearly as strong as the storms farther north. All right, we'll keep an update here on the storms across the Northeast for you this evening, but there's a lot going on in the Atlantic Basin right now. We have 3 named storms at the moment, 3 tropical storms, an area to watch in the Gulf of Mexico as well. And each of these could pose a threat somewhere. Different land masses, different times. All right, well, let's talk about the one that's way out there off the coast of Africa, far right-hand side of your screen. That's Tropical Storm Lorenzo. It's thousands of miles away, Dr. Knabb. We need to watch this thing even.
Well, because we can't guarantee it's going to curve over the Atlantic and never make it all the way across to the U.S. We'll talk about why. History teaches us that that can happen. And this is going to be a beast. This is a tropical wave that has formed very quickly after coming off the coast of Africa. Very robust circulation. And the water moving west at 16, south of the ridge. It's going to spare the Cabo Verde Islands of anything. But, Mike, look at this big ridge here over the tropical Atlantic. And there's just very weak wind shear.
What does that tell us?
Weak wind shear, because the low level and the upper waters are really, really warm. So it's going to stay south of this 80-degree line. In fact, you know, the Rapid Intensification Index, the Hurricane Center forecasters look at, say this is almost a 50-50 shot to be coming by this time tomorrow. And then after that, it probably, because of its structure, I mean, look at the look of this thing. It becomes another major hurricane.
This track, though, no big fish storm goes out in the Atlantic.
Well, that's what you might assume if you're the optimist, but I have possibilities that something different than that happens. Let's take a look at what's going to be steering it. So here's the big high-pressure ridge over the Atlantic. That's high pressure. It's going to be westward. Then we get to late in the week, breaking the ridge in the middle of the Atlantic allows it to turn northwestward and slow down. But then after that, it gets into no man's land for a little while, and it might meander and stall a little bit. At least in this European model run, it gains a little latitude. But this is a week from now, and even at this point, there's no guarantee. So let's look at the European model ensembles very quickly. They don't all curve it off to the northeast. Some of them are coming a lot farther west than the official forecast, which is down here, and some of these are 10 days from now. So it's going to be slowing down and causing us to go, ooh, which way is it going?
Where Lorenzo is and what Lorenzo is right now may have a few of our weather buffs at home thinking, okay, in some sense, that reminds me of Hurricane Florence. This is what it looked like at its stage in its life, and we know what happened. It hit us here in the Carolinas very, very hard. This was last year. Record-setting flooding in the Tar Heel State, unfortunately. Its calling card would be the feet and feet and feet of flooding, right? So many communities went underwater, Dr. Knabb. This is why, in your eyes, we have to pay very close attention to Lorenzo.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not saying, oh, this is going to be just like Florence. Okay, every storm's different, and there's still a very good chance that this storm recurves and never hits the United States. However, we thought that about Florence at times last year when it was out in the East Atlantic.
It's easy early in their life to write that.
Yeah, and history often teaches us that the storms that form quickly often have the greatest chance of recurving way before they get to the western part of the basin, and that is true. But this is where the forecast for Florence, Lorenzo's track is kind of like this right now. And 5 days from now, it'll be at that same spot Florence was, probably as a major hurricane like Florence was, but with a track that insisted that Florence would turn.
What caused this westerly movement with Florence, and could that happen with Lorenzo?
Yeah, Florence got caught beneath a ridge. Now, you know, Karen's going to come north in the weakness left behind by Jerry, but it gets caught behind that strengthening ridge. it could get turned westward like Florence did. It was the same kind of thing. Big ridge over the western Atlantic. Remember how hot it was in the east late September and early October?
Guess what? It's hot right now.
To the western part of the basin. Will it be like Florence? Who knows? Maybe it'll recurve.
While we keep an eye on Lorenzo, Dr. Knabb, thank you. We'll be right back on Weather.
The way you triumph over adversity.
All the ways that tropical systems can be dangerous. Give life to a tornado. A lot of damage caused by this, including fallen steel towers, broken windows, damaged cars, nearly 140,000 households losing power at the height of the typhoon. We got plenty in the tropics to talk about. In the Atlantic basin, we'll talk with our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, in just a second. Welcome back in, everyone. You're watching Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis for you. Plenty to cover for you tonight. I want to take you right to the U.S. Virgin Islands. Say hello to you in St. John tonight. Those of you watching us, looking out your window going, man, the weather's terrific right now. You're right, it is. But could that be changing as we've got a tropical storm out there that, well, might cause you a few headaches here short term? We've got Tropical Storm Karen out there. Dr. Knabb, closely following this, and if you're watching it at home, you're looking at the satellite every now and then, maybe you looked at it this morning and went, Karen, that's barely anything right now. Maybe it's back together a little bit.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, it's even gone down to a depression now, but it could easily come right back up to a tropical storm before impacting Puerto Rico and the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. And then it could get its act back together north of the Caribbean and then come westward. So a lot of us have to watch this very carefully and don't discount it based on its current look and intensity and status. We got to foot on the hazards and what it could become. And right now, despite the fact that it is a very disorganized tropical depression, it poses a significant heavy rainfall, flash flood, mudslide threat to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. It's getting shear from, but it's got, a broad low-level spin and a good amount of moisture coming in from the southeast. If this was a well-defined tropical wave, we'd be concerned about it presenting the flash flood threat. So we at least got to think of it that way, but it could get its act back together. It just doesn't have a well-defined center right now, so barely as they are, that could bring tropical storm conditions if it just gets a little bit stronger tonight and tomorrow morning. But definitely the rainfall threat is there. We could have several regions that face south could easily get tropical storm force winds at higher elevation. So the depression is forecast to make its way northward and then stall because it'll get trapped beneath that hot ridge. Forming over the eastern U.S. and the western Atlantic. And once it gets south of that ridge, it'll be sitting over very, very warm waters here between Bermuda and the Caribbean. And it will have plenty of time sitting out there to get its act back together. Now, if you watch the European model depiction, the colors are the spin. Here's the weakness in the ridging left behind by Jerry, but that departs. And then what happens is when we get to late this week and into the weekend, big ridge sets up over the western Atlantic, and Karen likely gets trapped south of there, and it will probably start coming west. We don't know exactly how strong it might be, but it will probably be making its way west. And Mike, if you look at the European model ensembles, they are all over the place. Could go out to sea, could come to the U.S., could sit out there for a week and a half. So, Mike, we have to watch this one for a while.
This is why it's a struggle early on in some of these storms to forecast where they're going to go. Dr. Knapp, thanks so much for that. We're going to have more with Dr. Knapp here coming up in just a second. How about we talk some severe weather? And for some of you, severe weather could happen overnight tonight. All right, there's a look at the visible satellite. Little Meteorology 101 for you tonight. White line, that thin little line of clouds, you see that? That's the actual cold front right there. So there's the cold front with the 82 in Portland and 87 in New York and 91 in D.C. Temperatures in the knees on the other side of that front. And you've cleared the rain in Cleveland. You're 76 degrees right now. You haven't cleared it in the northeast from Utica up towards Saranac Lake and eventually into Burlington. Here come the storms. I-87 is going to get hit. Portions of I-90 and I-80 as well. There's a look at the storms about to approach us in Buffalo. So you're not quite done. I think once that system comes through, then you'll be done. But also watch for some lightning. A couple of areas here, including Punxsutawney, and then back down toward Washington. Got a few showers and storms here. Pittsburgh, boy, we dodged a bullet here. Everything went north and everything went south. But this is the area that we'll watch for the remainder of the night tonight, from Burlington to Albany, Scranton, down toward Williamsport, for some more active storms this evening. There's a look at the future radar. Again, for some of you, these storms could come in overnight tonight or when the sun sets. That's 10 o'clock exiting Burlington, but midnight right along I-95. Still to come here tonight on Weather Underground.
For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you?
Never Ending Pasta Bowl is back at Olive Garden, starting at $10.99. Come in, everyone's favorite chicken Alfredo, plus unlimited salad and breadsticks, only for a limited time at Olive Garden.
This is my absolute favorite.
The cat is like reaching for the handle.
It's got the accents of gold. The beloved trolley.
Sometimes you have to say, like, do it again.
I found you.
Hey, go home.
So long ago.
Come on, let's go home.
Oh, I found you.
After 10 years, we've covered a lot of miles. Good thing I got a Subaru.
Looks like you got out again, huh, Banjo?
Love is out there. Find it in a Subaru Crosstrek.
This is his family. The world he's built for 72 years. This is Hal's heart. It's been torn, broken, and put back together. This is also Hal's heart. This is the cardiologist his brother recommended. And this is Hal's relief, knowing he's covered. This is Hal, his heart and memory keeper, and it's beating better than ever. This is what Medicare from Blue Cross Blue Shield does for Hal. And with easy access to quality health care, imagine what we can do for you. This is Medicare that cares back. This is the benefit of Blue.
Hola, mamá.
DiGiorno pizza bakes fresh in your own oven and travels straight to your table. Unlike delivery that goes from oven to box to bag to car to traffic to wrong houses. Nobody delivers a piping hot and crispy crust like a DiGiorno pizza. It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno.
For Barcelona?
We did promise we'd go.
Do you get the miles?
We get a pet sitter.
Use the card that gets you miles closer to your promise.
They should do this every year.
And start something priceless.
I'm craving
wings. Only Frigidaire's range lets you air fry right in your oven. It's all the flavor, none of the guilt.
so
good.
That's using your Frigidaire.
I mean, if you haven't thought about switching to Geico, frankly, you're missing out. The mobile app makes it easy to manage your policy, even way out here.
Your marshmallows.
Get digital ID cards, emergency roadside service, even follow. Whoa. Oops. That cheeky little finger. My bad.
Geico. It's easy to manage your policy whenever, wherever.
Can I trouble you for another marshmallow?
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction and all economic growth. How dare you?
An absolutely scathing speech delivered by Sweden's 16-year-old climate activist Greta Thunberg, shaming world United Nations for their inability to act to curb global emissions and fight climate change. Climate change, which is happening before our very eyes, evidenced by another melting glacier, an ancient glacier here. And in Switzerland, hundreds of activists hiked up what used to be the Puzo Glacier. The glacier lost between 80 and 90% of its volume in the last 13 years alone. And no signs of the Earth cooling down anytime soon. Our Carl Parker breaks down the August numbers in this month's Examination Earth.
The month of August is in and reveals that sea ice coverage at both the North and South Pole were below average. Carbon dioxide and temperatures averaged across the planet were 1.66 degrees above average, tying 2015 and 2017 as the second warmest August on record. Ocean temperatures were at an all-time record for the month. These warm waters in part responsible for the extreme intensity of Hurricane Dorian. Climate studies project that hurricane intensities will increase this century. Stronger, slower storms, combined with rising sea levels and higher rainfall rates, means hurricanes are likely to have more serious consequences on society in the coming decades. For now, the trends are unmistakable, and above average temperatures like these will be here for the foreseeable future.
So let's bring in now our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, to break down 4 different things that you might have heard in that piece right there from Carl about hurricanes. forecast to be more intense in the future, forecast to produce more rain, forecast to move slower, and all of that in the backdrop of a rising sea level.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on some of this? Let's break some of these down first. Let's talk about the intensity. How do we know that they're going to be more intense, and what results because of that?
Well, I think it makes physical sense that they would get stronger because of the warmer sea surface temperatures and the ability to have more moisture, and that's what hurricanes feed on, all of that. But what we don't know really is how much stronger they will get. In part, it's hard to know. Intensity really in the long term isn't all that good because of lack of recon and satellites going back far enough to establish those trends. But the concern is absolutely legitimate.
Let's move to some other things that maybe we're already experiencing.
Yeah, the numbers bear this out, that they're moving about 10% more slowly, especially these northward moving ones that are near North America. And it's not just statistics, but look at what has happened in recent years with the likes of Harvey. They weren't moving as quickly up the East Coast as in the past.
What's the danger of a slow-moving tropical system?
Well, that just lengthens the duration of all the hazards, but it especially lengthens the duration of the heavy rainfall and the storm surge, and worsens the water impacts. In fact, it just makes everything worse. A slow-moving system that sits around like Imelda doesn't have to be strong to cause a rainfall disaster, and then on top of that, you've got the greater rain rates.
That was another thing that Carl had mentioned there. How much more rain could we get from systems? It seems like everything's intertwined, forward speed, intensity, but if we talk about rain, which seems to be anymore, one of the biggest impacts that we have to deal with is all these places that are flooding.
Yeah, and if you look at the last few years, all these state tropical cyclone rainfall records that have been set in North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Hawaii, Arkansas, it's because of the combination of slow forward motion and incredible rainfall rates. In Tropical Depression Imelda, we were getting rainfall rates exceeding 6 inches per hour. And in Harvey, we had those kinds of numbers. It's getting more common, and that is one of the statistics that concerns me the most, how fast the water's coming down.
Then sea level is coming up.
And what that does is it makes the storm surges worse and makes us all more vulnerable to rising seas, and more of us would have to evacuate. And again, it's not linear. You know, if you get sea level rise, water inroads to go much farther inland. So, you know, even if the numbers and strengths of hurricanes are not increasing, and they may very well be in the future, but even if they're not, I'm very worried about the water impacts from slow motion, the rising sea levels, and the greater rainfall rates.
Should be cause for concern for
water,
so many
water.
of us. Yeah. Dr. Knapp, thank you very much. And still to come, when it comes to the tropics, the word tonight is busy. Dr. Knapp coming back. He's going to Northeast and the Southwest with a lot of issues in Phoenix and Flagstaff.
The Lab is brought to you by State Farm. There for when things go wrong, but also here to help life go right.
Well, it finally happened, Zachary. Somebody burned down my she shed.
Nobody burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Well, my she shed's on fire.
Your she shed was struck by lightning.
Zachary, is my she shed covered by State Farm?
Your she shed's covered.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shear she shed.
She shear?
Mm-hmm.
Home insurance trusted by more people than any other. State Farm.
IHOP, how can I help you?
I rang.
Yes, you did. Okay, so that's a stack of Wednesdays with chocolate ice cream shake from our new Addams Family menu. Oh, and for a limited time, kids eat free. You could say that again.
Pancake with a kooky new Addams Family menu at IHOP. And see the Addams Family in theaters this October.
For Barcelona?
We did promise we'd go.
Do you get the miles?
We get a pet sitter.
Use the card that gets you miles closer to your promise.
They should do this every year.
And start something priceless.
Transform your home with the experts at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 50% on waterproof and bamboo floors, and up to 40% on select hardwoods, plus special financing. These are the floors homes are built on. Only at Lumber Liquidators.
Bear presents Tough as Walls.
That's some great paint.
That's some great paint.
Behr Ultra, ranked #1 in customer satisfaction with interior paints. Great paint, new low price, starting at $29.98, exclusively at the Home Depot.
There are women who know when little leaks show up, you don't go home, you go viral. Poise Ultra Thin Pads are 5 times drier than the leading Always Period pad, so you can stay you and stay amazing. Poise, the #1 brand for light bladder leaks.
Hello, mirror. Makeup mode.
Done.
Find showtimes for Maleficent, Mistress of Evil.
Searching showtimes.
Purchase tickets. And more nail polish.
Okay, purchased.
Start wickedly fun playlist.
Humans are hilarious.
See Maleficent, Mistress of Evil in theaters October 18th.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. The Center for Medicare Services has officially authorized new benefits Medicare Advantage plans may include. Plans may now include private home aids and rides to medical appointments. Most plans also include dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage. To get the benefits you deserve, call the Medicare Coverage Helpline now.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. I called the Medicare Coverage Helpline, and they instantly advised me that I wasn't getting all the benefits I deserved. They explained I could get a plan that includes dental and prescription coverage, as well as the new coverage for private home aids and rides to medical appointments. If you want to find out what you deserve, call the number on your screen now. It's free. You'll be happy you called, I guarantee it.
Call to see if you can save, get more benefits now. Don't delay. Call now. It's free. Call 1-800-346-4800. That's 1-800-346-4800 now.
How can weather be that destructive in just a matter of seconds?
Storm Stories. All new episodes Sunday nights at 8 on the Weather Channel. Currently in our area, 79 degrees under fair skies. Tonight, mainly clear, low 54, winds northwest at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Tuesday, sunshine and some clouds. High 78. Winds northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tuesday night, a 55. Winds south-southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
Deadly wildfire that torches a town. Here's a preview of tonight's heroes and survivors.
Thursday morning, November 8th, 2018. After months of out and blazing heat, a spark ignites a fire 6 miles north of Paradise, California.
There are times when Mother Nature is clearly in control, and this was one of those times.
Blown at breakneck speed by found. Close by, 2 ambulances carry nurse Tammy Ferguson and several patients have made it less than a mile from the hospital.
As we were driving, we noticed that the ambulance
Why can't we still try to get out of this situation?
a huge gust of wind came. We got a lot of fire and a lot of embers at that time, and we saw the engine go up. Heavy smoke and fire.
With fire raging all around, the patients are evacuated from the burning vehicle.
It was absolutely raining fire. There was just fire coming down, and I was brushing fire off of me.
Every pine tree around us seemed like it was on fire.
I absolutely 100% believed that I was going to die.
I knew that this didn't look good. we're not getting out of here. This fire is literally going to burn us alive.
See how it ends. Defying death, heroes and survivors, coming up right after Weather Underground. We take you now to Watertown, New York, a live look at the wet conditions there. Birds don't seem to mind, do they? But awfully showery for us, and even some storms across Northeast and New England this evening. Don't forget the umbrella, like that one right there. Looks like they forgot their umbrella, but seems like they're just no big whoop, right? All right, let's show you what's happening currently. A few showers out there and storms from upstate New York and Vermont back down through Pennsylvania, portions of West Virginia, exiting Ohio right now. Albany, we're sitting at 79 degree storms. A lot of lightning embedded within these from Rome up toward Burlington tonight. We're going to move back down to the center of the country because this is an area we'll be concerned about severe weather tomorrow, highlighting it in red for you from, say, Grand Island, Nebraska, around Green Bay later in the day. As far as tornadoes go, believe it or not, there is a tornado risk tomorrow. Our Torcon scale puts it at a 3. For southeast Minnesota, much of Iowa, and then west central Wisconsin. Tuesday morning, heating in the day, in the afternoon is going to get some storms going. At least it's going to make the instability higher. Here we go, 7 o'clock near Fort Dodge. Storms get going for us. 10 o'clock at night, a line from Waterloo back down to Des Moines along I-80. So some of these storms could hammer you after it gets dark tomorrow, and then pushing their way farther south now across the state and maybe through the Quad Cities as well. There's Tuesday, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Bigger view for you now. Wisconsin through Minnesota, Iowa, back down through Nebraska. And some of those storms could contain some really serious wind. 4 o'clock in the morning Wednesday, by the way, they could be hitting you in Kansas City. Just an update on timing for many of you here, but it's a big complex of storms that's coming in. All right, let's focus on the tropics now. Bring in Dr. Knabb to talk about a wild ride we may be in for here over the course of the next days and weeks. This Atlantic right now is lit up. 3 named storms right now.
And this is a very difficult forecast regime over the Atlantic because the steering currents on a lot of these systems are going to collapse for a little bit, and then questions about where they might all go. We've got Jerry out here in the central tropical Atlantic. Tropical storm warning for Bermuda. We've got tropical depression Karen in the Caribbean headed north. We've got tropical storm Lorenzo poised to rapidly the southern Gulf. So let's look at the European model depiction of where all of these are going to be going. The easiest way to kind of take it all in and see what's going to happen. So there's our disturbed weather. The colors are low-level spin. So Jerry's got a lot. Lorenzo's got a good amount. Karen's got some, but it's disorder the steering. So here's high-pressure ridge here, high-pressure ridge out here. So it's all about where the ridges are going to steer all this stuff. And you'll see the system in the Gulf is headed toward Mexico if it develops. A small chance of that. But fast forward to Sunday. And Saturday and Sunday this weekend, big hot ridge over the southeast and west Atlantic, and we've got what's left of Jerry, Karen, or what's left of it, and then Lorenzo, question mark about where Karen and Lorenzo go. Jerry will probably dissipate in the midst of all of this. Well, in the European model's eye, Karen, or whatever state it's in, comes westward south of that ridge, and then the question is, we're going to have to break all of these systems down one by one after the top of the hour.
If you have forgotten, guess what? Today is first day of fall, but still feels like summer, so how much longer do these warm temperatures?
With sport coats starting at $99.99, mix and match shirts and pants 3 for $99.99, plus get 60% off designer suits. Only at Men's Warehouse.
Now at Domino's, we're more than just hand-tossed pizza for $7.99. We're $7.99 gluten-free crust, $7.99 handmade pan crust, $7.99 Brooklyn-style crust, and $7.99 crunchy thin crust, too. Carry out 3-topping pizzas on any of Domino's 5 crusts for just $7.99 each.
So Dish gives you NFL Red Zone, no extra charge. That's every touchdown, every game, Sunday afternoons. Because if you miss all that action, you miss all this action.
Dish, tuned in to you.
My Beneful Superfood Blend has me feeling super healthy with salmon, cranberries. Oh, but we are not done yet. Here comes Superfood Wet with beef, salmon, and pumpkin. It's like a superfood sundae on a Monday.
Beneful Superfood Blend, dry and wet recipes.
The world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate, available only on the next generation GMC Sierra.
$1,000 total value on this next generation Sierra Crew Cab SLT, or get 18% below MSRP on these Sierra SLE Crew Cab and Double Cab models with a traditional tailgate. Tailgate like a pro. GMC.
What's my Safelite store? Decompression zone. So when my windshield broke, I searched for someone who really knew my car. I found the experts at Safelite Auto Glass. With their exclusive technology, they fixed my windshield, then recalibrated the camera. That was a thing. Safelite has service I can trust.
Safelite Repair, Safelite Replace.
They're America's biopharmaceutical researchers, pursuing life-changing cures in a country that fosters innovation. Here, they find breakthroughs, like a way to fight cancer by arming a patient's own T cells. Because it's not just about the next breakthrough, it's all the ones after that.
We're Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh, and you may know us from your very first masterpiece, and whatever this was. Because we make our meat with the good of the deli and no artificial preservatives. Make every sandwich count with Oscar Mayer Deli Fresh.
As a struggling actor, I need all the breaks that I can get. At Liberty Mutual.
Cut.
Line.
Cut. Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Frustrated that clean clothes you want to wear always seem to need an iron? Try Bounce Wrinkle Guard dryer sheets. The Bounce Wrinkle Guard shorts have fewer wrinkles and static and more stiffness. It's the world's first mega sheet that does the job of 3 dryer sheets. Bounce out wrinkles.
Coming up right now on Weather Underground, the Atlantic flexing its tropical muscles. And by the looks of things, it doesn't appear that tropical systems are aiming for the U.S. But our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, will explain how looks can be deceiving.
The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you.
Powerful words from teen climate activist Greta Thunberg as she addresses world leaders at the UN Climate Summit. We'll break down the meteorological data to show you how climate change is already affecting us. And the calendar says fall in line with the season. And how do you feel about the changing seasons? Are you ready to bring on the pumpkin spice, or do you need a little bit more beach time? Be sure to vote in our Weather Underground Twitter poll. The results and your comments. Tonight for this Monday edition of Weather Underground, I'm Mike Bettis. Alex Wilson off this evening. You're going to hear from our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, in just a second. Why? Because the tropics are super active right now. So many different things happening currently. Take a look at this. We've got Tropical Storm Lorenzo, Tropical Depression Karen, and Tropical Storm Jerry, not to mention in the Gulf of Mexico, an area to watch there that has a chance of forming. We're going to take you first to Bermuda and show you what's happening out in the island nation in the Atlantic. With Umberto, it'll be back-to-back storms for us here, Dr. Knabb, and there's so much going on right now across the Atlantic.
Yeah, now the good news for Bermuda is it doesn't look like Jerry's going to be a super strong storm, like not a hurricane, but might have to there in Bermuda. What's keeping Jerry from getting really strong, though, is big trough, upper level low over the western Atlantic here, and it's just shearing Jerry significantly. And then on the southern side of the ridge that's south of there, that is what is shearing Karen down. And so a lot of conditions keeping these systems from getting too strong. And during the day today, it looked like Jerry might be coming apart. There's the low-level center getting exposed. There's the clouds that show the southwest upper-level winds, the wind shear. But right there, late in the wind, still at 65 miles an hour, still a tropical storm. Moving north-northwest right now, but pretty slowly. It's eventually going to make this right-hand turn. It might get a little bit weaker along the way. And so it's not going to be a hurricane, we don't think, as it goes by Bermuda on Wednesday. But they, again, have a tropical storm warning there. They might end up being on the stronger side of the circulation, even if it's not really well organized. After that, Jerry probably weakens over the north-central Atlantic and slows down and meanders. And then maybe it gets involved in whatever Karen and Lorenzo are doing, Mike. So we might have 3 named systems out there in the middle of the Atlantic in a few days.
Let's talk specifics now about Karen, because this one is worth watching if you live along the east coast of the U.S., because we're really uncertain now what could happen with this thing a few days down the road.
Yeah, it's almost like once it gets a name, and then when it weakens from storm to depression, we kind of go, oh, well, that's falling apart and it's not going to be a problem. But what if this tropical depression was just declared a tropical wave or an invest? Because it's kind of behaving like that right now. And we talked about the possibility for it to move north out of the Caribbean and develop and then move west. We'd be concerned about it. So we got to think in those terms about how something could get a lot stronger and more of a concern down the road. But we got a lot of time to watch it in the continental U.S., but we got to get ready tonight in the Puerto Rico, U.S., and British Virgin Islands, not because we think it's going to be a hurricane or anything with a really strong wind event, although there could be tropical storm conditions, especially at high elevations, but heavy rainfall and localized flooding. Karen is being sheared from the northeast by this ridge over the Caribbean, so that the conditions are not conducive for it to get very strong, and it's having trouble hanging on as a tropical storm and depression. Broad area of low pressure, some disorganized thunderstorm activity, but the Hurricane Center is holding on to it as a depression. Depressions are sometimes kind of ugly, and it could reorganize a little bit and bring tropical storm conditions to the islands there. But as the day has gone on, you see how disorganized that thunderstorm activity has been. But keeping those tropical storm warnings up because of the possibility, especially at higher elevations, at least in gusts, we could get some strong winds if you get one of those squalls coming through. Then after Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands tonight into tomorrow with the serious flash flood mudslide threat, it's going to probably slow down and get trapped south of a ridge south of Bermuda, but then the conditions get more conducive for it to organize if it has fallen apart or strengthen if it hasn't. And that's because of the very warm waters between Puerto Rico and Bermuda, and because the wind shear is probably going to weaken. So here's Jerry going to the northeast. So Karen's going to follow behind Jerry because Jerry is creating a weakness in the ridging. So that allows this ridge in the Atlantic to steer Karen northward. But then our hot ridge over the southeast and west Atlantic builds in by this weekend. Look at the size and strength of that ridge. So Karen, or what's left of it, gets stuck south of that ridge. And a lot of the model solutions say, well, it's going to stop and then it's going to be moving westward in the general direction of the Bahamas and the southeast U.S. coast. But that's just one model solution. If you look at the European model ensemble tracks, lots of possibilities. We call this a squashed spider. These dots are 10 days or less from now where it could still be. So there's a lot of possibilities, Mike, which include Karen still being over the Atlantic maybe a week from now. But look at all these tracks that do come west. A few of them go northeast. So a lot of waiting and watching to see what Karen will eventually do. But don't write it off because it's weak and you think it's going to turn out to sea. It just might not do that.
That cone actually looks like a big question mark to me.
It does, literally and figuratively.
A lot of questions still to be answered with that one. Dr. Knapp, thank you very much. How about some active storms tonight across the Northeast? Storms that have cleared you here in Syracuse, but they have left wet conditions on the roads, that's for sure. Just watch that this evening. But for those of you that live maybe along the I-87 corridor, Burlington or Albany, these are places we'd urge you to be heads up on the storms that could come your way. Williamsport to Scranton, Albany up toward Burlington. Here come the showers and storms for you. There's a look at the visible satellite. That thin little white line, did you see that big cloud shield there? But that little white line right there, that's the actual cold front. Temperatures on the front side, 80s and 90s. On the back side, we're in the 70s. Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, we're in the 70s. D.C., you were 91 last hour. Now you're 88, but mid-80s from New York up toward Boston. Really warm temperatures for this time of year. There's a look at the storms that are now hitting us in Buffalo. Storms coming up and approaching us in Burlington tonight as well. So over Lake Champlain, about to get pretty stormy for us here. And you could actually see a little bit of lightning and hear some thunder with those as well. This line pushing its way towards Saratoga Springs, eventually toward Rutland, and I think that Albany, a few hours from now, you'll probably get hit as well. Showers, for the most part, that have cleared you in Syracuse, but down 81 at times could be a little showery for you this evening. Punxsutawney, most of the storms are gone for us as well. And Pittsburgh, boy, we ended up getting just about nothing out of those storms. This is what remains for us this evening. Again, probably New England getting the worst of the stormy weather tonight. But along I-95, about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, here come the storms for you from, I'll say, Portland to Boston, down to New York, and could see some showers and storms down through New Jersey as well. In the morning hours, 3 o'clock in the morning, getting hit out here in the Cape, that pushes its way out. Most of us will be dry, at least nothing falling from the sky for the morning drive, but the roads could at times be a little bit wet for you here. There's the forecast for you tomorrow. Significantly cooler, by the way. Binghamton just 61 and 70s for you from Boston and New York. All right, to the southwest we go. Early morning rush brought this flash flooding, maybe catching some drivers off guard here in Phoenix. This is the danger that we run in the southwest with some really heavy rain, poor drainage here. Flooding is going to be an ongoing concern for us tonight, probably tomorrow as well. Let's bring back in Dr. Knabb because there's a legitimate tropical connection here, Dr. Knabb, and we're just going to amp up the rainfall totals here, and hopefully we don't repeat this, but it's possible.
Oh, it absolutely is, and there's a definite tropical connection with a couple of East Pacific tropical systems that have been moving northward over the Baja California area and bringing some moisture northward along with an upper level trough tapping into the East Pacific. And as a result, we've got the moisture in place, we've got the lift in place, and we've got likelihood of flash flooding here in the Phoenix area and north and east of there. And that goes into tomorrow morning. Most of Arizona's at least got some risk, but especially Phoenix northward. Here are the tropical systems that were at play over the last few days, and because of this troughing out west, all those tropical systems have been moving north, and the moisture has been drawn up to the north. Now, the systems have been sheared apart. There's what's left of Mario getting sheared apart. But this upper-level trough is really causing some lift in the atmosphere, along with some daytime heating. So we've got more thunderstorms over Arizona today than we do in the remnants of Mario. And you can see how the thunderstorms have really fired up here, right through the central portions of Arizona. And on the radar, you can see a lot of the heavy returns up between Phoenix and Flagstaff, a lot of lightning. But there's been multiple hazards here. One of them, flash flooding. We've got a problem with the dam on the Salt River. The water's having to be released, and so we got a narrow flash flood warning there just north of Mesa, south of Scottsdale. So there could be some normally dry areas that are covered in water because of that. And then all of these thunderstorms have kicked off an outflow boundary, and that's come into the Casa Grande area. Dust storm warning in Pinal County till 3:30 local time. And, you know, the visibility is down in there, getting down to maybe half mile, even quarter mile locally. And you can see on the visible imagery, here are the thunderstorms up north, and then here comes the leading them coming down to the south, right in there. You can see how it clears out behind it, but it's kicking up dust ahead of it, Mike. So many hazards, and even a severe thunderstorm warning off to the northeast of Phoenix with quarter-sized hail and 60-mile-an-hour gusts. We got it all.
Very active right now.
Dangerous.
And potentially deadly for a lot of folks. Be ready for this, Dr. Knabb. Thanks for that. Right now, city looks fantastic. It's a great Midwest town, by the way. If you've never visited Eau Claire, it's a little hidden gem, I like to call it. But we've got severe weather that could come calling for us tomorrow. I want to give you the heads up on that. Minneapolis, our forecast brings the thunderstorms tomorrow. Very nice temperatures, 80 degrees tomorrow. Once the front comes through, we cool down to 57, and Wednesday, a cooler day and a calmer day, 67 with some sunshine. But tomorrow is the day to watch. This area mostly highlighted in the dark red here is the area of possible severe weather. Along I-90 here across southern Minnesota, but I-35 as well, Minneapolis down toward Des Moines. Can't rule out some stormy weather for you in Omaha either. Torcon of 3 tomorrow, 30% chance that we see tornadoes in that area that's highlighted in dark red. Ahead of that cold front there that's providing some lift, we've got a lot of moisture pulling northbound here. Strong low-level jet here could enhance our low low-level spin or low-level wind shear here that could be enough to spawn some tornadoes here. Winds turn with height here, so rotating supercell thunderstorms are a possibility for us tomorrow. Greatest supercell potential, this area around Waterloo, say southeast Minnesota, then back toward Omaha, really between Sioux City and Omaha for you tomorrow. So again, those are the spots that we'll watch for. There's a look at the future. Radar storms really get going tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock in the evening, really hitting us here. And then midnight, Des Moines, then back down across extreme eastern Nebraska. All right, you know what it is today? It's September 23rd. It's the first day of fall, y'all. That's right. Officially autumn, 3:50 this morning Eastern time. And in Holton, Maine, you can see that some of the leaves, well, if you can see them in the distance there, they're starting to change color. I see a little yellow, a little red in there. So we want to know, how do you feel about the changing seasons? Are you saying, yeah, bring on the pumpkin spice? Do you need more beach time? Vote on our Weather Underground Twitter poll right now. Send your comments as well. We'll have the final results and what you have to say about it coming up a little bit later in the show. By the way, 57% of you say right now, bring me some pumpkin spice. Like you want fall. 43% of you say you need a little bit more summer. All right, so when we talk about the heat, for so many of you, it's been an ongoing story all September. Take a look at Atlanta, for instance. Look at some of the numbers that you've had. A big string of 90-degree heat. Your coldest day, 82 degrees on the 19th. But today, another day in the 90s. Not a cloud in the sky in Atlanta. Looks beautiful out there. You know, one thing that's been your saving grace the last few days is that you've had low humidity. So the extreme heat's been tolerable. But tomorrow, look for some potential record highs. We'll include Atlanta, Tallahassee, Pensacola, New Orleans, Jacksonville. These are all places where we could see record highs tomorrow. You're in the territory in Atlanta, 92, 96 in Tallahassee will tie a record. In Jacksonville, forecasting mid-90s for you. Now, for a place like Atlanta, check out this forecast, your 12-day forecast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row. Now you're forecast to hit 90 degrees, cooling off by the 4th of October. That's absolutely nuts. What that means is you're likely to tie your all-time record for number of 90-degree days in a season, in a year. 90 of them is the record. You're sitting at 80 right now. For Louisville, your temperatures are on the rise here. Look at these numbers by next week. September 30th, October 1st, October 2nd. Mid-90s for you here, 96, 96, 95. For Louisville, your latest 95 degree on record is September 29th, 1953. And we just showed you September 30th, October 1st, and October 2nd are all forecast to hit 95 or higher. Your average day is August 15th for your last 95 degree day. We are blowing that out of the water probably. By the way, the Southeast is really bore the brunt of the really hot temperatures. A lot of us here in the Southeast, top 5 for warmest September to date. Some of us are number 1. By the way, through early October, about 2/3 of the country likely to experience above average temperatures, and we'll just be burning here across the east from, say, Panama City all the way up to Cleveland, Buffalo, and Detroit. By the way, 3 out of every 4 people experience temperatures above average. Well, she may be small, but 16-year-old activist Greta Thunberg took her message on climate change to world leaders at the UN today. Some say this teen activist told the adults in the room everything they need to hear. Her powerful words are coming up.
The Lab is brought to you by State Farm. There for when things go wrong, but also here to help life go right.
So, Josh, you going for our drive safe?
Welcome back to Weather Underground through New England tonight, including around Burlington. A little wet for you right now, but certainly some rumbles of thunder and some lightning is possible. So which side, unstable air on the front side, 88 in D.C. It's 85 right now in New York, but look how much cooler the air is in Buffalo, back toward Cleveland and Pittsburgh with temperatures here in the low to mid-70s. There's thunderstorms there. So those storms approaching I-87 really have in Burlington. The stronger storms could come south, maybe between, say, Burlington and Saratoga Springs. Storms have cleared you in Utica, but I think a little bit later on tonight, a place like Albany, you're in for it. Things have worked out for you in Pittsburgh. Not much happened for you. Storms went south and storms went north, and you were stuck somewhere in the middle. All right, they're up along I-95, too. So a place like Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Boston, down through Hartford, New York, and down through New Jersey. These are all spots where those storms should all clear you by the morning. Most of us will have a drier morning. Roads could still be wet, but nothing will be falling from the skies, at least at this point. Most of the storms here have cleared you well off the coastline. So tomorrow morning, through the day, things should be a lot clearer for you. All right, we've got a lot going on.
Right here on the weather.
Talked a lot about Jerry and Karen. There's one more risk out there,
right here,
and that is Tropical Storm Lorenzo. Now, it's way out there in the Atlantic. It's just come off the coast from the U.S. East Coast. People at home are like,
well, the chances are greater that it will do that than that it won't, but we've said that before, and that means the conditions in the ocean quickly west at 16 miles an hour. Upper level ridging very well developed out here. Low level and upper level winds blowing out of the east. There's no wind shear. There's not much dry air, and it's going to stay south here over the warm waters, 80 degrees or greater, and move west and stay out of that cooler water. And if you look at it on the visible imagery, it's looking very, very structured to it. It just has that look, all the low-level winds wrapping around. It's going to be a beast because of all those conditions. So the Hurricane Center forecasting this to strengthen, and it could be a hurricane by this time tomorrow. Could be a major hurricane somewhere along the way. All it has to do is tighten up an inner core, Mike, and this will be off to the races. I think this will be a very strong system in the days to come.
Folks at home are probably looking at it going, okay, it's going to be maybe a Category 3, but the cone takes it north. It doesn't seem like it's going to be much, if anything. Maybe some ships are going to have to avoid that.
Yeah, but what you never want to do is take that cone and then extrapolate it in the direction that you like, because it may or may not do that. Yeah,
we all do that.
It may or may not do that. But now, here's why there's some uncertainty down the road. Ridge over the East Atlantic. Here comes what's left of Jerry. Here comes Karen. And they all kind of get in this no man's land in the middle of the Atlantic. Will Lorenzo get caught by this ridging? Now, the model here gets caught in the middle of the Atlantic. If you look at the European model ensembles, they're all over the place. There's too many of these farther to the west, and this is only out to 10 days. We might have to wait a while to get our answer.
It really depends on the...
Hurricane Florence looked like it was going to curve out to sea, and then it got caught beneath one of those strong ridges.
It looked very similar to Lorenzo. It took a fairly abrupt left-hand turn, made its way toward the U.S. It was a Cat 5 at one point, right?
I think it got to 4.
Cat 4.
Yeah.
But we all looked at this thing going, we had a major hurricane bearing down on us. Luckily, it weakened. The unfortunate thing was it rained and rained and rained and didn't stop.
Yeah, another Category slow hurricane that caused a flooding disaster. Now, we're not saying here that this is going exactly where Lorenzo's going to go, and there's a good chance, if you look at these European ensembles here. So here's the 5-day forecast. Here's where those ensembles are. It was down here where Lorenzo is now, and 5 days from now,
Looked
Lorenzo.
like it was going to fish out and go up into the Atlantic.
So 5 days from now, Lorenzo's forecast had Florence turning to the north. But will Lorenzo get caught beneath that ridge like Florence? It's at least a possibility. That's why history teaches us we can't write off Lorenzo.
Very good point, Dr. Knabb. Thank you. I'm straight ahead here on Weather Underground. Dr. Knabb's coming back. He's going to put some historical perspective on Tropical Storm Karen and explain why we can't rule out potential impacts along Florida's east coast.
Right here on the weather.
With the experts at Lumber Liquidators and up to 40% on select hardwoods, plus special financing. Only at Lumber Liquidators.
Humira patients, that's why we redesigned Humira. We wanted to make the experience better for you. Now there's less pain immediately following injection. We've reduced the size of the needle and removed the citrate buffer. And it has the same effectiveness you know and trust.
Infections, serious and sometimes fatal infections including tuberculosis and cancer, blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Ask your doctor about Humira citrate-free.
Full-fledged dust storm on Mars. Nope. This is Australia. During a blinding dust storm over the weekend, one of the highways had to be shut down here after two cars collided. Literally can't see anything. That's an absolute mess, right? Like two people walk. Hey, thank you for staying with us here on Weather Underground. We're going to talk about weather stateside this evening. Going to bring in our host of the U.S., maybe even the Gulf of Mexico. We're going to take you right now to St. John, the U.S. Virgin Islands, And we've got a tropical storm warning here. Weather right now is pleasant, super nice. But we're watching a tropical storm Karen to see what it may hold for us here. That's a beautiful, it truly is a beautiful shot. Look at the hilly mountainous terrain that we have here. Nice contrast in the skies.
That's why you live there.
That's right. But when you live in paradise like that, Dr. Neb, you always run the risk of tropical systems coming your way. We've got Karen out there right now. It was a tropical storm earlier. It's a depression now. But you feel like this may re-strengthen.
Yeah, especially when it gets out of the Caribbean. In the meantime, it's a rainfall, flood, mudslide risk for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. But yes, long term, it has an opportunity to have plenty of time over warm water and conditions that are more ripe for systems to develop and strengthen. And we can't write it off for the east coast of the U.S. Right now, doesn't look like much, right? But don't focus on the way it looks or what its status is, because in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, tonight into tomorrow, could have some locally heavy rainfall. The reason it doesn't look so hot is because it's got a big ridge over the Caribbean that is producing some northeasterly winds. So try finding the tropical depression on the water vapor imagery. Pretty hard to do. But if we switch over to the visible and we look at what's been going on today, you can see the low-level clouds coming up this way and rotating around. Broad area of low pressure, just doesn't have a well-defined center, barely qualifying as a tropical depression, but it does have some disorganized showers and thunderstorms. There's the spin at low levels, but you can see the clouds moving off at upper levels this way. That's the wind shear. So it's disorganized, but it still could get back to tropical storm strength, just a little bit more wind, especially at El, and of course the possibility of the locally heavy rainfall. Now, after it gets north of the Caribbean, it probably stalls and maybe meanders, but it gets into conditions that are more conducive for strengthening, or if it falls apart, for redevelopment. If this was an invest, we'd be concerned about it developing over warm waters, and as the wind shear likely decreases in this area. And when you look at the European model ensembles, all the alternatives for where it could go, it's kind of a squashed spider pattern where it stops, meanders, stalls, and it could eventually go northeastward, but it also could eventually come westward. But look at some of these tracks that are looping. Is that realistic? Unfortunately, yes. We've seen that game play out before, a couple times at least, in very notable ways with systems that came out of the Caribbean, weak and disorganized. Here's Jean that did that loop and then hit Florida. Here's Betsy that did a smaller loop and also hit Florida and went into the Gulf. Not saying that Karen is definitely going to re-strengthen and become a big system for the East Coast, but history teaches us, Mike, that it is certainly possible. So don't write it off just because of the way it looks now. Sure. And things could definitely change.
Darn history.
Yeah. Well, we're doomed to repeat it.
Teaches us a few things, doesn't it? Dr. Neb, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the update on that. To the Midwest and Northeast, to show you what's going on with the stormy weather tonight. Cold front slicing through right there. You can see the delineation on the visible satellite tonight. Warm, unstable air on the front side. We've got cooler air on the back side. Look at the numbers. 83 Boston, 88 D.C., 74 is in Buffalo, and a 72 right now in Pittsburgh. Plenty of storms up through New England tonight, including Saranac Lake into Buffalo. Plenty of heavy rain over Lake Champlain right now, and coming down I-87. Watch for some lightning and thunder here. Saratoga Springs, you're going to get a little bit later, and then also I think in a place like Albany, you'll hit with the tail end of this storm. Utica, just light rain for you right now. Oneonta, I think you might get the tail end of that, or you could potentially just get missed altogether. Buffalo, we had a good round of thunderstorms. Right overhead, storms over Niagara Falls as well. Pittsburgh, we've managed to dodge just about everything. There's a look for the remainder as well. There's a look at the future radar. And one thing of note about this, there's 11 o'clock tonight, plenty of storms up through New England, and a line approaching now I-95, probably going to be there around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. So if you plan on being out, be ready for that. Storms could still be there overnight across, say, Providence and then Cape Cod as well. Coming up here on Weather Underground.
In 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away?
Here I go.
Barb, you left me hanging on the high harmony there.
If you ride, you get it. Geico Motorcycle. 15 minutes good, 15% or more.
Never Ending Pasta Bowl is back at Olive Garden, starting at $10.99. Come in for over 100 combinations, plus unlimited salad and breadsticks, only for a limited time at Olive Garden.
Curb appeal. You know it when you see it. You want it when you pass it. And with the home curb appeal with the best brands around, you can do it or have it done for you. You know curb appeal when you see it, so start seeing it. Today is the day for...
All right, let's get going.
You want to make sure to aim it.
I'm aiming it.
I ordered it for everyone.
We got the biggest Subaru to help bring our family together.
Just resting my eyes.
Even though we're generations apart.
What a day. I just love those kids.
The 3-row Subaru Ascent.
Wave the grandma, everybody.
Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
Good on you for sporting a look at Men's Warehouse.
Chicken Alfredo has always been a forbidden love, so I created my new line of Oh That's Good frozen skillets with a twist. We've swapped some of the cream in the sauce for pureed cauliflower, but it's so delicious, you'd never know. Oh, that's good.
An important message from Medicare. Fraudsters. They're out to get your Medicare number so they can bill fake claims and your good name. Don't give them that chance.
Just calling to confirm your Medicare number.
You have your card available?
For example, the caller says they're from Medicare. Watch out. It's probably a scam. Don't give out your card number. And always check your claim statements for errors. Report fraudulent charges to 1-800-MEDICARE. Guard your card. Learn more at medicare.gov/fraud.
To be their best, kids need good nutrition and practice. Lots of practice. Get them started right with Carnation Breakfast Essentials. It has protein plus vitamins and minerals to help kids be their best. Carnation Breakfast Essentials.
As a family, we always fly Emirates. Mum and Dad are always saying, I love the breakfast. It's the lunch for me. We both like the snacks and the evening meal. Granny always says, the crew is so lovely with, can I get you anything, madam? My uncle loves Emirates 4 with thousands of channels. Plus, I never miss a live match. And my sister, if she ever spoke to me, would say, it's a free Wi-Fi, duh. You get so much more on an Emirates flight. Even the baby would say, fly Emirates, fly better.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire